Hey everybody, Max Aita here, head coach of Team Juggernaut, here to talk to you about relative height of the bar as it pertains to the weightlifting technique triad. So the relative height of the bar, what we're talking about here, is the height the bar goes when the lifter pulls it or drives it in relation to the lifter's body height. This is a really important component of weightlifting technique in that if a lifter doesn't pull the bar high enough, then they can't receive the bar. Clearly that's the case. If a lifter is pulling the snatch too high or the clean too high and is wasting energy or is becoming inefficient because they have to lift the bar, let's say over 75 or 80% of their own height in order to fix it, it means they're slow under the bar. That's where the connection between bar height and time to fixation comes into play. Pulling the bar too high can force the lifter to move under the bar too slow, but also focusing too much on trying to pull the weight higher and higher and higher in order to catch it makes you a less and less efficient lifter. So if we look at some of the common technical mistakes or what it looks like when someone's relative height of the bar is not adequate or is not right. In one example, you'd have a lifter who maybe is going under the clean, just can't pull the bar high enough and the bar lands too far forward on their shoulders, or it's just not quite high enough for them to get under. If they're often missing in front or they're catching it on bent elbows in the jerk, the bar is just not moving high enough for the lifter to fix it. Another example of incorrect relative barbell height would be if the lifter is powering way more than they squat clean or squat snatch. For example, if you power snatch 100 kilograms and you're pulling that bar to 85 or 90% of your height, or basically pulling it almost onto straight legs, but you can't lift the same weight in a squat snatch or squat clean, you're essentially devoting too much energy to pulling the bar rather than developing the coordination and skill to move under the bar sooner and faster. In the first example, we have somebody who's physically not strong enough to pull the bar high enough. We can look at a few exercises that will develop that. The first and foremost thing we need to do is become stronger, but in a specific way. So the muscle snatch is a great example of teaching someone some of the technical aspects of the snatch, forcing the bar to be close to the body, extending on the pull as much as possible, and then bringing the elbows up as high as they can. This exercise is often done without a hook grip and without an explosion in the hips, because it forces the lifter to rely on the muscles of the upper body and the explosive force of the pull rather than just a fast explosion from the hips and a lack of involvement in the upper body. Technically, it trains the pull to be straighter to some degree, and it probably trains more of the technical aspect than it does the strength aspect, but it still has a blended component of both for sure. For the clean, simple exercise would be clean high pulls or clean pulls. These can be used with moderate weights if the lifter's technique is very, very sloppy and the technique is going to benefit their relative height more. For example, if the lifter gets behind the barbell too soon, or they just make basic technical errors and that prevents them from utilizing the power they have. So someone who's maybe very strong but has poor relative height would do better doing clean high pulls with moderate and lighter weights to reinforce the technique, because they can do a lot more repetitions than they could in the actual clean, and they can train those skills a little bit faster. Or if somebody is very, very weak, they just can't pull the bar high enough, they don't generate enough power, clean pulls with heavier weights will be more beneficial to them because it's going to develop the strength components a little bit more. Doing heavy pulls as a means of developing excellent technique is probably not the best course of action, so there needs to be a use of both different types of pulls, both heavy pulls and light pulls, to help keep the technique intact with some lifters and then also develop the strength with other lifters. For the jerk, a great exercise for developing relative height of the bar is the push press. Most oftentimes in the jerk, the lifter is driving the bar high enough. In some cases, though, they do not drive the bar high enough. And this is where push presses come in handy, or push presses are a very good choice for these lifters because it forces the lifter to drive the bar entirely with their legs and finish the extension of the drive through the legs because they can't rebend the knee. So they can't, in a sense, cut the pull or eliminate the final portion of the pull in order to sneak under the bar in the jerk or split their legs and try and catch it very, very low. Example of a relative height biased program. If we look at a person who needs to develop more relative height on the bar, they need to develop more strength. The program is going to look a little more focused on exercises that develop power, that force the lifter to have to explode in less time or develop more general strength. So if we look at a strength block for a lifter who is deficient in the pulling strength. We can look at our little structure here and see an example week. The first exercise, Monday, power clean from the blocks above the knee. The power cleans and power movements are a great exercise to help develop relative height because they train in a very, very specific manner the movement, but they force the extension of the pull a little bit more. Because the lifter doesn't have to go under as low or is trying to not go under as low, they're trying to pull the bar as high as possible in a power movement. This will force them to do so. Putting the bar on blocks reinforces the explosion phase of the lift. So this is a great example of the use of both methods. One, developing the technique more by forcing them to power clean and extend the pull, and then also forcing them to getting rid of the time they can to generate the power, so they have to do it faster. The rate of force development is going to be a little more exaggerated here. The next exercise would be snatch from blocks above the knee. Same principle here, except they're doing a snatch all the way down, so they're going to emphasize the actual lift a little bit more. Because this is a strength block, it's a little bit closer to the competition, so the exercises are going to be a little more specific. And then regular clean pulls or clean pull to the hips. This will emphasize the lifter developing strength in the low back. The exercise percentages are going to be higher here because they generally are going to need to develop more strength. Tuesday, power snatch from a deficit, power clean and jerk, or power clean plus jerk. This is an example here of the day where the lifter is going to have a deficit, so they're going to be forced to pull for a little bit longer. That longer pull again exaggerates the relative height of the bar because they're spending more time pulling. They're going to generate a little bit more strength there. The power clean plus the jerk. Doing a power clean before a clean forces the lifter to kind of reinforce that extension in the pull. So they spend time power cleaning being more specific than a clean pull. So a power clean, then a clean, then a jerk. They develop more specific skill because they're doing the power clean first, extending on the pull, then transferring that skill into the actual clean, and then a jerk because this is getting closer to the competition. Wednesday, as a basic drill for this day, they're going to do a snatch balance. Snatch balance is a great exercise. Again, reinforcing movement under the bar. Not something that's obviously working to develop relative height of the bar, but it is something that allows them to develop or maintain some of that time to fixation, some improvements in speed under the weight. And then more strength exercises here. Because this lifter needs to develop more power, obviously more days and more exercises are going to be devoted to general exercises and general strength. So front squat, clean deadlift, clean high pulls. Quite a bit more volume and strength exercises in this training block. Friday and Saturday, we have very similar days. We're going to have a power snatch plus snatch, and then a power clean from deficit. Again, the same things apply as it did earlier in the week. The power snatch plus snatch reinforces extension in the pull, and then transferring that to the snatch itself. Power clean from a deficit, forcing the lifter to pull for longer. Same principle as in the snatch, developing more power in the pull, developing a stronger, higher pull. And then snatch pulls after that. Saturday, power snatch from the blocks above the knee, plus clean, plus jerk from the blocks above the knee. Again, same as Monday, emphasis on power snatch from the blocks above the knee, forcing the explosion phase to be faster and generating more power in less time. And then the power version of that, forcing them to extend so the bar moves higher. Clean jerk from the blocks, same thing. We're doing the actual classic lift now though, so the lift is going to be done with less time to accelerate the bar, forcing the lifter to be more explosive. And then some heavy strength exercises afterwards, snatch deadlift and snatch high pull. If you liked what you heard in this video, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're interested in anything more on weightlifting technique or weightlifting programming, go ahead and head over to jtsstrength.com and give us a look.